Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today in War Thunder it is time to talk about some of the information that was there on the dev server but in the files, meaning that it was information that was around but hard to cover in a video because obviously I couldn't show it. Now this document is brought to us by Father Gentlespie, one of the wonderful parts of the community and a wonderful member because he's able to do some data mining, he's also able to create some user missions and even custom battles. He's definitely a massively valued member of the War Thunder community, and I just want to thank him and also others who have contributed to this video here. So thank you, Gentlespie. I hope you continue to do the wonderful work that you do, and also thank you everybody else who provided pictures and statements about certain vehicles. So let's get started with the list. Now unfortunately, when it came to update 1.91, as Gentlespie has written, you can't really post pics as the CDK breaks every model he was looking at. Guess it needs a new update for 1.91. Now what was kind of interesting is the dev server was actually updated a second time after it actually closed, and then that kind of fixed a lot of the models. But as you can see here, this is what was happening if you tried to use the asset viewer. It made everything model-wise just kind of go a little bit haywire, and I'm not exactly sure what was going on, but it basically meant posting pictures of stuff was going to be impossible or kind of redundant. So that's why this Datamine doesn't really have any pictures in it, but it does talk about some new vehicle stat cards and what is coming to the game. So the new vehicle stat cards, of course you have the Chinese tech tree, the French Panther. Now one thing I do want to know about the Panther, it is a G variant, and it actually looks different to the G variant that you see in the German tech tree. And someone mentioned in a comment, I apologize for not remembering your name, but they said in the comments that it was an early variant of the G, so it was slightly different to the one in the German tech tree, mainly down to some of its armor should be slightly different to that one. So yeah, it should be at least unique in a way compared to the German Panther G, but still have the majority of the same characteristics. Obviously it's missing the side skirts, the camouflage itself was very nice, and it would be nice if it was put in the tech tree, but you know, you can't have everything. So the next stuff, the Oswin 2 and the M48A2C, two vehicles that we had a look at. Then you have the Ariete PSO, which of course was the Ariete with the add-on armor packages. Somebody did mention that the standard Ariete also got some kind of armor package, so if there is a second dev server, I'll make sure to have a look at that for you. Then of course the sedan with Mistrals, the Mistrals being absolutely insane when it came to the game. Type 75, which we had a look at today, and then the Objects at say 5, which at 9.7, in my opinion, is going to get downtied, or at least I hope it gets downtied. Now the planes bit is where it gets kind of interesting, because there's a few planes here which weren't on the dev server, or at least may have been there in different forms. So for the US, you've got the F4C, so the Phantom 2, obviously that was there. You got the F89B, the F89C, and also the F89D. And also, there was another plane that was added, the F89J. Now this was found in the dev server files, and this was part, as I said, of the updates after the dev server went down. So I would definitely see this one, you know, when it comes to the second dev server, or maybe it's just going to be sat in the files for a while, maybe it becomes a gift vehicle or a premium vehicle, because we already have two which are sat as premium vehicles, so having two in the tech tree and two as premiums would be kind of odd, especially when it's an F89, which I know a lot of people are interested in, but it's not exactly a top dog, you know, it's not something which, you know, would excite a bunch of people. So you've got the F89J, which is this. The F89J is an F89D. So the F89D, if you don't know, is the main production version of the F89. It had 6 20mm cannons on it, and the F89J just installed underwing hardpoints that you can see here, which were designed to carry Genie nuclear-armed rockets, the MB-1s, so wonderful stuff. We won't be getting them because of the fact that they're nuclear, but also it could carry 4 Falcon missiles, or the standard F-89D rocket or fuel pod, or pure fuel tanks. So there was a total of 350 of these made, converted from F-89Ds. Now, what is interesting out of that list is the Falcon missiles. The Falcon missiles, which are these things right here, they were the first operational guided air-to-air missile that the United States Air Force used, and it was known as the AIM-4 Falcon. It was produced in both heat-seeking and also radar-guided versions, and the missile was used during the Vietnam War, and it was used on the F-4 Phantom and also used on the F-8 Crusader. Which we had the model leak of the F-8 Crusader a while ago, and obviously the Phantom 2 has just been added to the game, at least, or it's coming in update 1.91. So this guided missile, the Falcon, could not just be available on the F-89J, it could also be available for the Phantom 2, which would definitely be kind of interesting. So we'll see what happens with that going forward. The other one is, of course, the F-89C. And the F-89C is a little bit different compared to the rest. So one of the principal uses of the F-89, or at least some of the variants of the F-89, was that it was going to be used as something that could catch nuclear-armed bombers and shoot them down before they got to their target, whether it was with missiles, which at the time of the F-89 were very unreliable, or through guns. That's why it had 6, 20 millimeters in the nose, and then you upgrade from that to the F-89C. Now, the F-89C didn't always have these guns that you see here, and you may be asking, what are these guns? Well, these were specific guns on the F-89C 25N0 515766, so it replaced the 6 20mm with 4 30mm Oerlikon cannons. So you've gone from 6 20s to 4 30s, designed for killing and intercepting bombers. Like, these guns are huge. And also, normally Oerlikons are known for being 20s. So seeing a 30mm version, which I don't think we actually have in the game, because when I had a look at the 30mm Oerlikon, it doesn't seem to be a gun which was widely used. It's still really interesting, It's the fact is, we're getting a new weapon system in the game here, and we also could get a new weapon system in the game here with this, with the Falcon missiles. So these two definitely give some interesting opportunities. The question is, will they be premium or not, like the other two are? And so, yeah, that's something to think about. The next one is the UK. So you've got the A29 Hudson, the Swift Mark 1, and the Swift Mark 7. Now, obviously, the Swift Mark 7 did not have its air-to-air missile ready to go, or something was wrong with it, therefore we didn't get to see it. Hopefully that's there on a second dev server. But the A29 Hudson is already in game. It's a premium that the British have. So I think there's a little bit of crossed wires here, because I think the A29 Hudson is the one which is actually coming to the Chinese tech tree. And because this, at least from my reading, is a complete copy of the Hudson. There's no difference between it and the one in the British premium tech tree. So therefore, I think that's what this is talking about. It's just sat in the UK part of the files because, well, it's the premium one. The Italians, we've talked about before, CL-13 Mark IV, F-86 later, the Vampire. The Soviets with the MiG. Then the Germans with the G91R3, which is of course the G91 with the 30mm, and also it has access to Nords, which is always fun. Has access to AS Nords, so the air-to-ground ones, and they should be incredibly impressive at being this CAS role. A lot of people have talked about how Germany doesn't really have any top-tier CAS machines. There's no FJ4B for Germany. The best they have is a form of the Arado, or if you are really, really into it, maybe you could take some of the later tier vehicles with bombs on them. But if you have a look at the G91R3, the Nords are going to be incredibly good in ground forces, but overall, it's just another G91, and we know that the G91s are incredibly powerful in the game. The YS is known as one of the most prolific machines at top tier, and the other G91s, for a long time, I refused to fly, because I thought they were game-breaking at their BRs. Luckily, they've all been up-tiered since then, so I can give them a go, but the difference in power between the German one and the Italian ones, it's basically just different armaments at the end of the day, which can be incredibly damning for either aircraft. Then you've got the F4C and its statistics that we see here. BR 10.0, a lot of people have talked about how with this update we're going to get an increase in the top range of BR. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. The way I think it's going to work, but then again, remember, I said this after update 1.89, and I wish it had happened, but unfortunately it didn't. I think what we're going to see is you'll have the first month of matchmaking, and you'll have a lot of people playing the F4C, you'll have a lot of people playing the MiG-21, and hopefully other machines as well, and as time goes on, about a month passes, I think then they'll increase the BR range. Once, stuff like the Phantom 2 has been, played enough, so enough people have it, and enough people can get into matchmaking, then they're going to up its BR. Or at least that's what I hope happens. The surprising thing is there were no AIM-9Es on it. There was no AIM-9Es, but they were AGM-12s and also AGM-12Cs. So of course the bullpups. But AIM-9Es, which are the improved sidewinders that some of the other aircraft get, they did say on a stream, or at least BVVD said on a stream, that it will be getting them, just not right now. So whether that means that it'll launch with them, or whether that means in an update later on it'll come, who knows. Then you got the MiG-21F, which is in a very similar boat to the F4C when it comes to its BR. And also, there was a MiG-17 called the Mig-17 Cuba. Now, MiG-17s were used in Cuba during the whole Cuban Missile Crisis, and they have an actually really nice, interesting camouflage to them. So I'll just try and find it for you, because it's like a bright blue and green camo. Yeah, you can see it here, like in this one. You can see it has the blue areas. This is probably a better, a better picture of it. But, god damn, that's a MiG-15. But let's just use this one. So you can see with the MiG-17, it's got the nice Cuban camouflage, a little bit of turquoise, a little bit of brown. I've seen the contrast on the turquoise being a little bit more like this one, as you can see. So, yeah, I think adding this as some form of premium, yeah, I can see it happening. It definitely could fit into the game in the Soviet tech tree, as alongside its brother now, the Chinese one, which was added to the game, which of course I don't think is in this tech tree. It might be in this tech tree, but it should be here. Here you go, the Shenyang F5, which is an upgraded MiG-17, which has access to air-to-air missiles. So if you wanted to add in a premium version for the Soviets, you definitely could. And making it Cuban, sure, why not? Now with the ships, we have some interesting stuff. So you've got the Megami, which of course is the heavy cruiser coming. You got the Hiburi, the Shionen, which is going to be between the T-61B, or whatever that's called, and the first destroyer. So it's going to be a rank 2 late tier machine. It has two 120s on it, very similar to the River class. If you played that for the British, should be a lot of fun. Then you got the Type 4 Kurotai, and I'm pretty sure this is already in the game, because here's the dev blog for it, the Kurotai Type 2. So I think, once again, maybe there was a file name change or something, because, well, it's already here at the lower tiers. The next one is the 71 Footer Mgb and the cruiser Arethusa. Now, obviously, we saw the Arethusa on the dev server. We didn't see the 71 Footer Mgb. And what was interesting is when they did the test server, it was actually labeled the 75th Footer, or the 75 Footer Mgb. And when I had a look for it, I couldn't really find anything on it. But now it's a 71 Footer. It all starts making sense. So the 71 Footer is a simple machine. You can actually buy the plans for it for about 20 quid. But it's just a motor gunboat which has access to one 2-pounder on the front, which is a decent fire rate. Then it has two 20mm and four 303 machine guns. So here's the general plan for it. You've got you've got what looks like the Rolls-Royce 40 or something like that on the front. Then you've got the 20s looking back, and then you've got the Vickers machine guns also on the back. So normally the Vickers machine guns go in the center, but it looks like some, at least here, are labeled over here. So if we're talking about a machine that's going to be low tier and a premium, this is quite a nice choice. With the 40 on the front, if you've ever played something like the SGB, you'll realize how deadly these style of 40s are. They've got quite a long reload though, so you got to be careful about that. But a machine at rank 1, which has a 40, two 20s, and a bunch of Vickers, will be strong. It will be a strong machine. So if that comes in as a premium, which is what it's touted to be, definitely looking forward to it. The Arethusa, of course, is just another light cruiser. Atlanta being another light cruiser. The Chapayev. Then we have the PR-1204. Now, I thought we had the PR-1204 in the game, and we kind of do. Apart from this is the PR-204 late. So if you don't know what this one is, it's the one with the PT-76 turrets, and it's also got a set of grenade launchers on the back, which are very useless, but they do make some pretty sounds and also explosions, but I've never really seen them kill anything because of just the way that they're set up. So overall, your main armament being the PT-76 turret is the bit that is incredibly strong. Now, this is the late version though. So if that is different to the PR-1204, which we're getting into the game, my guess is there'll be slight differences between them when it comes to its modernization. The problem is I don't know what those are. Normally it's either engine upgrades or it's some form of different turrets. I know for a fact that the PT-76 turret was key to the 1204 program, so that's not what was changed. Maybe the guns on the back are the things that were altered. The other thing, or the next machine, is the PC-466 Kami. Now I'm pretty sure this also wasn't on the dev server, and it's this machine here. As you can see, it has a decent donkey gun on the front. If you want to see its armament, it has one 3-inch dual-purpose gun mount, one 40mm gun mount, three 20mm gun mounts, two rocket launchers, four depth charger projectors, and two depth charge tracks. And also it's powered by a Fairbanks Morse. So this machine here is once again looking interesting. With the one donkey gun on the front and another 40, we'll have to see what BR it sits at. It is a sub chaser. My guess is around maybe 2.3, 2.7. And then if that's the case, we'll see how well it does. But if it's in the Soviet tree, it's definitely got a lot of company around that area with some very, very powerful machines. Now, nothing in helicopters. And then we get to some of the changes. So for tanks, from what Gentlespie sees on most tank cannons, there's a parameter for damage that uses the DeMar formula. It might be more shell types switching to the DeMar formula, which is lovely. The next one is talking about the 90mm M41 Cannon. This is the gun which is present on the M48A1. So this might be a new gun for the Germans, since they are getting the M48A1C. I'm wondering if it's going to act any differently to the one in the American tech tree. It shouldn't, because I'm pretty sure it's the same gun. It has a slightly different muzzle brake on it though, so it might act differently. Then we have some of the information on the new missiles. Now this, to me, is the interesting thing. So the Stingers have a max speed of 1,000 meters per second. They also have an 18G max load, 7 kilometer lock-on from behind, and 4.5 kilometers in all aspects, and 40-degree lock-on angle. So they also have no thrust vectoring. So these are looking incredibly strong when it comes to what we already have in the game. 18G's max load, incredibly good. Same with the Iglas. If you didn't know, they brought the 9M39 Igla to the Mi-35M. This has actually been in the files for a very long time, so it's kind of nice to see how it's finally coming to the game in this form. And also, the fact is, it is slightly worse than the Stinger in its lock-on aspects, and also its when it comes to the thrust vectoring idea. It does use thrust vectoring, but also it has the 18G max load, so once again, should be quite strong. They're only available on the Mi-35. The Stingers right now, I believe, are available on a Eurocopter and the British G-Lynx and the A-Lynx. Then we've got the ATAM Mistral. This is, of course, the one which should be on the late-tier French stuff, and also should be... I'm not sure if it shares the same characteristics as the one on the Saddam 25. We'll have to see. But they seemed incredibly strong on the dev server. So 18G max load, 5.5 kilometer lock from behind, 5 kilometer all aspect lock on. And then the Euro ATW3, 1,000 millimeters of penetration, 290 meters per second top speed, so they're slow as all hell. 7 kilometer max difference, 3 kilograms of HTA explosives. So these are just going to be massive, but they're going to be slow as all hell, and they're going to be easy to hit because, well, you have machine guns that could knock them out of the air. Then the helipads will use 20mm Flak 38s as AA defense. This is incredibly important for these machines. One of the problems with the helipads is they had no AA defense, so people could just buzz them all day long or just sit outside of them and wait. So it's nice to see that there is a little bit of AA defense being added to them. There was also some changes to the SRAMs. So the SRAM changes that are available, they use a thrust vectoring now, which is absolutely lovely. The tanks, a lot of ATGM's damage got buffed, so we might see more of a push towards stuff like the IT-1 and the Rakuten Jagdpanzer again. But for me, their time has kind of passed, especially with the introduction of the IFV, which can do what they do, but also have scouting and a little bit more speed. Obviously, the 2 Hot or the Rakuten Jagdpanzer is always going to be good because of its ability to hide behind hills, but it's not going to be as oppressive as it was before. The M10T cannon, APC-BC shell nerf, so that's a hit to the Soviets. Then the explosive mass is changed from 3.83 to 3.15, so it's going to do less explosive damage once it penetrates. The helicopters, the attacker damage increased a little bit, so that's obviously with regard to the ATGM. And that is it when it comes to Gentlespie's notes about the update. I'm sure there'll be more once the second dev server comes out and we see more changes to stuff like the Swift and so on. But anyway, once again, I want to thank Gentlespie for making this, and I want to thank all of you for helping when it comes to finding the information. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Joseph Anders, Martinez, Mopar 1969, Moxie, Super Cacti, Uyans Terry, and Elove Goats, and of course Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.